My name is John McKay, and I'm the Member of Parliament for Scarborough-Guildwood, and I have the honor of being the chair of the Public Safety Committee. Um, we received Mr. Justice Bastarache before the committee some months ago, and he presented a report that was extremely disturbing to all members of the committee. It detailed in some considerable cold hard facts the Merlo-Davidson settlements, some 30 years of claims against RCMP officers, totaling a total payout of $125 million. He conducted 44 interviewees, and some of the behavior that he examined rose to the level of criminal activity. The most disturbing testimony came, of course, from Justice Bastarache, and I thought that it would be most useful to listen to what he had to say before the committee. And he said, I think there is a certain cognitive dissonance in the RCMP. Why? Because there's a lot of well-intentioned people who believe themselves to be ethical, hence systemic racism or systemic gender-based disadvantages and discrimination cannot exist in the RCMP. What they rely is on the few bad apples justification. This approach allows an organization to continue as it is, relying on the impression that simply finding these bad apples will solve the issue. They are not willing to recognize the system and cultural nature of sexual harassment and gender and sexual orientation-based harassment in the RCMP. I have a list of the men who are accused of harassment and a list of those who are found to be responsible for harassment in various grievance processes. These aren't a few bad apples. These are hundreds of bad apples. He goes on to detail his interviews, his claims, and his findings. And at the end, he says, the culture of the RCMP portrayed by the claimants is one of sexism, homophobia, gossip, backbiting, where reprisal for rocking the boat and rumor mongering flourish. While many claimants took care to mention that they worked with some good members, they indicated that even these members felt compelled to accept the prevalent culture and remain silent in the face of injustice. It was and all my colleagues, including Pam Demoff and Kamal Kara and Darren Fisher, were deeply disturbed by what Mr. Justice Bastarache had to say. The RCMP did respond. The response was received late yesterday on the letterhead of Commissioner Lucky. We had Commissioner Lucky before the committee. We also had the Minister of Public Safety before the committee. There is an expectation on the part of the committee that the RCMP will respond fulsomely and frequently to the findings of Mr. Justice Bastarache and report itself to the committee. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Pam Demoff, and then after that we'll open it up to questions.
Thank you, John. I want to start by acknowledging I'm on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation from my home in the riding of Oakville, North Burlington, and I'd like to echo what John McKay has said. The Bastarache report shone a light on the horrific incidents and experiences of sexual violence and harassment in the RCMP. I couldn't read the report in one sitting, and I was unable to sleep after I read it. It's truly unfortunate that it took these brave women coming forward and a report like this to push the RCMP to make change. As John mentioned, Commissioner Lucky appeared at the committee to respond to the report, which had been addressed to her. And while we have a long way to go before we correct this culture, we feel that the RCMP has begun taking steps in the right direction. Their response to the report, as John mentioned, was tabled today, and I'd like to share some of the actions the RCMP has taken in response to the Bastarache report. One of the most encouraging actions taken by the RCMP is the Independent Center for Harassment Resolution, which began operation this month. The center will ensure impartiality and consistency in disciplinary action and be a marked departure from how cases of sexual harassment were handled before 2019. This center will provide external investigators to build trust, address concerns of retribution and bias, and ensure that appropriate discipline is taken up to and including termination. The RCMP will also begin seeking ways to implement resources to ensure backfilling for individuals on maternity and paternity leave, work to strengthen housing and social supports in postings, and improve childcare across the country. Additionally, the first ever RCMP Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Strategy was launched. This is in conjunction with the modernization of RCMP recruitment strategies to improve diversity during hiring procedures. I'd like to point out that a few of those now, and these recommendations are also in line with the study that we just completed on systemic racism in policing. The Commissioner has said that the RCMP will diversify their proactive recruitment strategies. The attributes and characteristics needed for modern policing will be identified, and the RCMP has already begun using implicit bias testing and tools which identifies racist and sexist beliefs in applicants to the RCMP. The Commissioner also explained at committee that they will also launch an external review of the RCMP conduct and disciplinary process. Neither Commissioner Lucky nor Minister Blair were satisfied with the magnitude of change that has thus far taken place. Neither was I, and neither was the committee. As Canadians, we should be expecting the best from our police services. An external review of the RCMP's conduct that ensures perpetrators are being fully held to account is a step in the right direction, as are some of the measures outlined by the RCMP. I'm encouraged by the kind of changes that Commissioner Lucky and the RCMP have committed to taking, and I look forward to hearing from them frequently as part of the Public Safety Committee as they create a more inclusive and safe work environment. But we're not there yet. Each of us needs to hold the RCMP to account to ensure every officer who serves feels safe at work and safe to report. Thank you.
And we'll now go to questions. Is it where we're going?
It is. I actually
Yes,
was just going to add, we had hoped to have one of our committee members here to provide comments in French and answer questions in French, and unfortunately she's held up in the House of Commons, so we do apologize that we haven't had someone providing French comments. So we can go to questions now. Thank you.
Perfect. We'll take questions from the phone. A reminder to reporters, one question, one follow-up as usual. Operator, do we have a first question?
Thank you. If you have a question, please press star 1. Si vous avez une question, faites étoile 1. Once again, please press star 1 if you have a question. De nouveau, n'hésitez pas de faire étoile 1 pour toute question. We have no question registered at this time. Nous n'avons pas de questions pour le moment.
And this concludes the press conference. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Interesting in and of itself. Okay, thank you.